When Meghan Markle appeared on The View, the mood backstage was cautiously optimistic. The producers had promised a light and positive segment focusing on her charity work and latest podcast series. Meghan, dressed in a cream blazer and subtle pearl earrings, smiled confidently as she made her entrance, waving politely to the audience. But seated just a few chairs away was Howard Stern, booked as a surprise co-panelist for a special crossover discussion on media narratives. The hosts had assured Meghan the conversation wouldn't get personal. What followed proved those words false. Howard leaned back in his chair, grinning, eyes locked on her like a cat sizing up a mouse. "So, Duchess," he said, dragging out the title with audible sarcasm, "do you miss royalty or just the headlines?" The question landed like a thunderclap. The room tensed. Meghan offered a tight smile. "I don't miss being controlled," she replied, "and I never cared for headlines. I care about truth." Stern chuckled, raising an eyebrow. "Right?" he said. "Because Netflix and Spotify were all about truth, not the check." Joy Behar stifled a laugh. Whoopi glanced off camera. Meghan's eyes narrowed, but she kept her voice calm. "My goal has always been to use my voice for good." Stern shot back. "That's funny, because most people say you use it to play victim." Gasps rippled through the studio audience. Sunny Hostin cleared her throat. "Let's pivot," she began, but Howard interrupted. "No, let's not. Let's talk about accountability. Everyone else gets grilled here. Why not her?" Meghan looked stunned, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I've faced more scrutiny than most women in public life," she said, "and it's always laced with bias." Stern leaned forward. He said, "But playing the same note in every interview isn't healing its branding." A beat of silence. Meghan visibly recoiled. Joy tried to cut in with a lighter anecdote, but the moment had shifted. The room no longer felt like a talk show, felt like a courtroom. Stern, ever the provocateur, added one more dagger. "You left a palace, not a prison," he said. "Millions would have traded places with you. The only shackles were golden." The words hit hard. Meghan blinked rapidly, looking to Whoopi, then to the producer's booth. A crew member stepped forward but was waved off. Her voice cracked as she replied, "You don't know what I lived through. You don't know the silencing, the gaslighting, the threats." Howard didn't flinch. "I've been in radio for 40 years, Duchess. I know a performance when I see one." That did it. Meghan slowly stood up, her eyes welled up. The crowd was stunned into silence. "I came here in good faith," she whispered, voice trembling, "but I will not be humiliated for existing." She turned and walked off stage. Cameras kept rolling. The audience erupted, some in cheers, some in shocked murmurs. Joy sat speechless. Whoopi pulled off her glasses. Howard Stern just sat back, arms crossed, like a man who knew exactly what he'd done. ABC went into crisis mode instantly. Social media exploded. Within minutes, hashtags like #JusticeForMeghan, #HowardIsA BUL lie, and #TheViewMess trended worldwide. The show's official page posted a neutral message. "Today's episode of The View sparked important conversations. We stand by all our guests," but that wasn't enough. Meghan's team issued a statement within the hour. The Duchess of Sussex was blindsided and subjected to hostile treatment. She will not be returning to the show. Stern, on the other hand, went live on his own SiriusXM broadcast that evening. "She walked off because someone finally didn't coddle her," he said. "That's not humiliation, that's honesty." His fans roared approval, but not everyone agreed. Celebrities lined up on both sides of the fallout. Jamila posted a furious thread defending Meghan, while Sharon Osbourne tweeted, "It's about time someone called her out." Oprah, notably silent at first, released a statement 2 days later, "Compassion should not be optional." That line sparked even more debate. On YouTube, clips of the confrontation were watched millions of times. One channel looped the moment. Meghan's expression changed from composed to crushed. TikTok users debated whether Howard was cruel or just brutally honest. Podcasts dissected it. Opinion columns spun it into metaphors about America, monarchy, race, feminism, and free speech. But the woman at the center of it all had vanished. Asterisk for over a week, Meghan made no public appearances. Paparazzi circled Montecito, but saw no sign of her. Then came the photo-screeny telephoto shots of her walking a dog, head down, sunglasses on. The caption read, "Meghan, after the storm." A source told people she was deeply shaken, but more determined than ever to take back her story. And so she did. Meghan's team announced she would produce a new docuseries not about royalty, but about the psychology of media. The title, framed "The Woman Behind the Headlines." Hollywood insiders whispered it was a direct response to Howard Stern. Others said it was a masterclass in PR jiu-jitsu. Either way, the world watched. Meanwhile, the views, ratings surged and then dipped. Viewers were split. Some wrote letters praising Howard Stern for cutting through the nonsense. Others boycotted the show, accusing it of cruelty. Joy Behar joked, "Well, it's not a day on The View if someone doesn't walk out," but even she sounded tired. Whoopi Goldberg appeared visibly disillusioned on air for several days. Sunny Hostin later admitted in an interview that episode changed the vibe. You could feel it. It got ... dark. As for Howard Stern, he doubled down on his approach. "I'm not in the business of fairy tales," he told Rolling Stone. "If you sit on a throne of contradictions, don't cry when someone calls it out." Asterisk in the weeks that followed, Meghan Markle slowly re-emerged. She gave a heartfelt interview to Elle, speaking about vulnerability, motherhood, and what it feels like to have the whole world turn into a jury. The interview was praised for its sincerity, but the scars from The View remained visible. When asked if she'd ever return to live television, she paused for a long time before answering, "Maybe, but only if I get to bring my own chair." That quote went viral. Shirts were printed with it. Fans rallied behind her again. But the specter of that moment with Howard Stern still hung in the air like smoke after a fight's ick, unforgettable and hard to fully explain. Behind the scenes, at The View, the tension didn't die after Meghan's walk-off. It metastasized. Producers scrambled to contain the narrative, but the damage had already metastasized. ABC's internal meetings grew chaotic, with execs split between defending the show's integrity and panicking over the growing wave of backlash. Joy Behar, never one to mince words, reportedly snapped during a meeting. "This is a talk show, not a battleground. If they want war, let them go to Fox." Whoopi, meanwhile, was visibly shaken, having seen too many controversies in her time to think this would fade easily. "We invited her into our home," she said quietly to a colleague, "and we let her get ambushed." The feeling in the building was radioactive. Lines had been crossed, and no one could agree whose fault it was. Meghan's husband, Prince Harry, remained silent publicly but privately. He was livid. According to a close friend, he called Howard Stern's team directly and left a message that simply said, "Your day will come." The call was never returned. Instead, Stern's team posted a mocking tweet that read, "Monarchy in shambles, but sure, blame the radio guy." Howard himself remained unrepentant, boasting on his show that he'd said what everyone else was afraid to say. He even joked, "She spin this into a 5-part documentary and cry all the way to the bank." Those words, clipped and shared online, reignited the storm. Meghan's team responded sharply. The Duchess is not profiting from panchees, healing through honesty. Unlike others, she doesn't need to punch down to stay relevant. 3 days later, Meghan released a surprise podcast episode titled The Performance of Pain, where she spoke not about the show directly, but about what it means to have one's sincerity constantly questioned. Without naming names, she described how public figures are cherry-picked, dissected, and disbelieved until there's nothing left but shadows of who they were. Listeners knew exactly who she was talking about. The episode trended for days. A-list guests lined up to be on her next one, hoping to join the cultural moment. But Meghan wasn't just defending herself anymore. She was building something new, a media space where, as she said in her own words, truth is not a luxury, but a necessity. Meanwhile, a quiet civil war broke out inside The View. Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg were reportedly at odds with the producers who booked Stern. "We were blindsided," Sunny told a reporter off the record. "That wasn't a panel, that was a setup." Joy Behar, ever the survivor, tried to remain neutral, but was overheard saying at a wrap party that whole day felt wrong. Like we were all extras in someone else's grudge match. The person most unbothered by the internal drama, Howard Stern. He doubled down, giving an exclusive to Vanity Fair, in which he called Meghan a brand, not a person, and said she weaponizes empathy like it's a sword. The article went viral, not in the way he'd hoped.